All right, friends, so today we are going to read a story called The Penguin and the Pea by Janet Perlman. That's our author. She wrote the words of this story. And again, we are going to be looking for the characters in the story, the setting of the story, and events that happen in our story. So again, my title is The Penguin and the Pea. Long ago in a faraway land there lived a penguin prince who was very, very lonely. He wished more than anything to find a penguin princess to marry, but she had to be a real princess. He traveled far and wide to find one, and he met many penguins who claimed to be a princess. Some even wore crowns, but there was always something that was not quite right. One was too loud, another too giddy, another too shy, and that one was just plain boring. The prince was not impressed by any of them, and so he returned home weary and discouraged. "I fear I will never find the penguin princess of my dreams," he lamented. His parents, too, had hopes of seeing their son marry a true princess. Their hearts ached to see him so unhappy. One night there was a terrible storm. Lightning flashed on the castle walls and the wind howled through the trees. The rain came down in torrents, flooding the courtyard. Suddenly there was a loud banging at the castle gate. Who could be out on such a night? The old king himself went to see. Outside the gate stood a wet and miserable penguin. Her carriage had broken down and she was seeking shelter from the storm. She claimed to be a princess, but what a dreadful sight she was. Rain streamed from her beak and her feathers were all matted. Her clothes were in tatters and her crown was caked with mud. Yet she insisted that she was a real princess. The king invited the shivering penguin in to dry off and to stay for the night. The princess shook the rain and mud from her clothes and feathers as best she could. When she removed her grubby rain flippers, enough water gushed out to make a puddle in the entryway. The old queen pursed her beak disapprovingly at the bedraggled guest. "She does not look like a princess to me," she said to the king. "Just look at those scraggly feathers and that rusty crown." But the prince was intrigued by the mysterious stranger and looked forward to learning more about her. As the evening wore on, he saw that despite everyone's first impressions, she posed genuine beauty and sparkling wit. In all his travels, he had never met anyone as enchanting as she. From the gentle curve of her beak down to the delicate webbed feet, she was the most perfect penguin the prince had ever seen. When it came time to retire for the night, the princess was shown to her bedchamber. "Oh dear, this certainly is a lumpy old bed," she thought. She tried her best to get comfortable, but all through the night she flipped and flopped and did not sleep a wink. The next morning she said not a word about the terrible night. Like most princesses, she was too polite to complain, although everyone could see that she was exhausted. The queen thought regretfully that the princess was now too tired to travel. The storm was still raging, and the princess was happy to stay in the castle and spend more time with the prince. It was a day of pure delight and whimsy. The two young penguins talked about everything and anything. They were simply enchanted with each other, and the castle halls rung with joy and laughter. "She surely must be a real princess," thought the prince. "She is the ideal penguin for me." By the end of the day, the prince was so in love that he asked her for her fin in marriage. The princess happily accepted. The prince then went to his parents to ask for their blessing. The king gave his flap of approval right away, for he could see how much in love his son was. But the queen was not ready to welcome the newcomer into the royal family. We must be absolutely sure that the young penguin is really a real princess, the queen insisted. Only a true princess is so delicate and fragile to feel a single pea under 20 mattresses. If she passes the test, then you will have my blessing. Now the queen was not absolutely certain that this was a precise test of being a real princess, but it was the only one she knew. Anyone could feel a cabbage under a mattress, but a pea? She hurried back to the guest chambers, removed the cabbage she had put in its place, and one tiny pea. She then ordered the servants to bring 19 more mattresses to the top, and be placed on top. Finally, just to be sure, she ordered 20 heavy eiderdown quilts to be added to the pile. When the princess entered the bedchambers and saw the towering bed, she was bewildered. Could this be the same bed I slept on last night? It looks very different. But all her things were there just as she had left them, so it had to be the right room. The princess had quite a time climbing up onto the bed. Excuse me. When she finally reached the top, the height made her extremely dizzy, and then, once she was nestled in, she could feel something hard beneath the mattress that was causing her some discomfort. In the middle of the night, as she turned restlessly from side to side, she rolled off the bed and tumbled onto the floor. She sat up carefully, adjusted her crown. Her whole body ached. Her flippers were bruised and some of her feathers were broken, but she did not even try to climb back up, but huddled miserably on the floor for the rest of the night. In the morning, when the princess came down to the royal breakfast table, the queen asked, "How did you sleep last night, my dear? I do hope your bed was more comfortable." The princess was not sure what to say, for she did not want to complain. "Don't be shy, please tell us," the queen urged. Everyone leaned in close to hear her reply. "Oh, it was a lovely bed, so many mattresses and quilts," the princess began. "But there was something hard in it that kept me awake all night. And then, oh, I can't tell you how I have suffered. I am covered in bruises and sore all over." "I knew she was a real princess," exclaimed the prince. How happy he was. From then on, the princess was recognized by everyone in the kingdom to be genuine royalty, for she had felt a tiny pea right through 20 mattresses and 20 eiderdown quilts. The queen gave her consent, and the prince and princess were soon married and lived happily ever after. As for the royal pea, it was put on display in a special glass case in the Royal Penguin Museum. It remains there to this day if it hasn't been lost. And so ends a true story. So on Flipgrid, tell me who was a character in the story, where did the story take place, and what are some things or events that happened in the story?